Welcome back to episode 5 of the Molloy Twins podcast. And today we're joined with one of the most well-known faces in the Irish YouTube space, the soul of an alcoholic in the body of an NBA player, former painter and decorator, master of the shtick, and the tallest man I think I've ever met, Daragh Curran. Thanks for coming in today.
Fucking intro, thank you very much. How are we getting on, lads? I didn't think you were going to have that ready. And then you just start spilling it off. And you don't pretend you just made that up on the top of your head either.
No, it's like last night.
Great to be here, lads. Very professional setup, I must say. So, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Brilliant. What's the crack?
Oh, good. When the Guru's in town, you need to pull out the big ones, though.
Yeah.
It's a red panty night.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, all is good. Like I said, I haven't been on a podcast in a while. I've been... this will be out next kind of few weeks or not in a million
3 weeks.
Yeah,
so like that.
Like I've been like I was saying just before, I've been not that I'm super relevant now, but I think I've come the new year kind of found my feet again.
The rebirth.
The rebirth, the rebirth that took about 6 or 7 months, but I feel like I'm in a good spot now. Because last kind of few months I hadn't a clue what I was at, but we can take the conversation whatever way you want.
For sure. Even though I wanted to say it to you as well, because obviously before we met you, I'd watched the video already, but you shared the video of like what went wrong for me in 2023. And like, I think I started watching your stuff, I think before COVID.
Yeah.
Like a long time,
Wow.
And I don't even know how I stumbled upon it because I didn't drink Guinness at the time or anything.
Guinness man,
But I think it was just the novelty of somebody going around reviewing Guinness felt so like, oh, this is mad. It was like real Irish. But I just want to say, I think you were so hard on yourself in that video at certain parts of it. I think you gave yourself a bit too much of a, like, as a creator, I know there's always a sense of like pressure and urgency to figure out what you do and do it to the best of your ability. And social media can be unforgiving because like a couple of bad videos or a couple of months you don't post and everyone kind of forgets about you and doesn't want to know. But I think just person to person, I think you've always came across really unique and authentic and like true to yourself. And I always enjoyed your content, whether you were reviewing Toasties or fucking Guinness or whatever else it might be. So I think, I know obviously you're trying to find your thing, but I think as long as you just stay true to yourself, you'll be successful, whatever you end up doing.
What a heartwarming start. Well, appreciate that. Yeah, and I'll be honest, like when I put out videos like that, I like to think, like I think there's some people online, probably it's nearly more like the life of a Hollywood actor where you never really see anything personal. And I'm not saying I put personal stuff out, but you kind of, they put the content out and there's not a whole lot of kind of interaction or community aspect to it, which is absolutely grand. They're still doing unbelievable things. But my thing has always been like I say, just love talking on the Instagram stories, all that sort of stuff. And like say the people who follow me, I like to feel like, as cringe as it sounds, like a bit of a community. So I like doing those odd videos on YouTube where it's just a bit of a life update. And then, you stick to it. What was the caption? What went wrong for me in 2023? You gotta make the caption a bit dramatic. To get the views. And then the thumbnail is like you kind of looking sad at the camera. With the truth and all this. But you gotta play the game.
Text
you have to play the game. That's what I've learned with YouTube. Like in terms of like all that clickbait shit. But anyway, but yeah, I think I would never say I think my videos can be somewhat humorous, but I'm not like joke. I'm not a comedian funny. Like I don't think I'm the funniest person ever or anything like that. But I just think the reason I've built whatever audience I have is that word authenticity and kind of just being honest. And if I'm even kind of not putting myself down, but just being honest about myself and saying, look, this is how, as you lads know, this is the real life of trying to quote unquote create content online. It's people can see you've got all these followers and all, but unless it's one thing getting followers and then it's actually trying to make a living off it, or two totally separate things. So, but I appreciate that, and I've always felt like I've got good feedback of people saying, look, you're authentic, you're down to earth, you say it how it is. And I always said, if I was to get anywhere with my content, it'll be because of those things.
Definitely.
100%. We like to start off with a bit of quick fire just to get things moving.
Fire
for
away.
yourself. Firstly, where did you grow up?
Ashburn, County Meath. Born obviously in Dublin, but I'm a Meath man.
Okay,
Born in fucking the Hollis Street or whatever. But born and bred basically in Ashburn, County Meath. Lived there my whole life. Moved to New Zealand for a year at like 22, then back to Ashburn, and then lived in Portmarnock, and I mightn't say where I live.
Hold on.
You know, it's
what's
like
your code?
But So what, you want to go into a bit of... Oh no, it's quick fire. I thought you wanted
that's
the
all good.
backstory.
That's all good.
Oh yeah, that was slow answering.
That's all good. Second question. What did you want to be when you were younger? As in when you grew up?
That not a fucking clue. Didn't have a clue. Always struggled with that. Was always into football and sports and all when I was younger. Never really wanted to be like, I played a bit of underage rugby, like provincial stuff, but even then I didn't really see myself having a lifelong career in not in sport but in as an athlete, say. So and I remember filling out that CAO form with my mum, and she's like, just fucking pick something.
Stick something down, will you?
I remember going through it about 50 times and not one thing was jumping out more than others. So it's just like, general business or whatever it was like that. But no, honestly, I never knew what I wanted to be.
Nice.
Have to ask a question for me dad, because he's a fan of a pint of Guinness.
What's his name?
Adam as well, same as me, Adam Molloy. So all your experience, what's the top place you've had a pint? Number one.
Yeah, so like obviously it makes sense that I get asked that question a lot, and I always just kind of go to I just say the Gravediggers.
Yeah,
everyone's heard of it. It's kind of known as like the holy grail.
The spot, yeah.
But to be honest, I could probably name 10 pubs around Ireland that would have probably as good a pint.
Yeah.
It just depends on the given day. Do you know what I mean? I could say this pub is the best pint you'll ever have. You could go there today, they might be having an off day, and this people who don't drink Guinness is just going, what's he on about? It's a pint of Guinness. So that's always been the only real hate I've ever gotten, which is grand, because it's
you deal with that.
I can deal with that. But people just don't get to like, what are you smoking? Like, what you mean? It's different.
Just drink the fucking thing.
Yeah. But if you do drink it, you do know, like, you could go into the best pub in the world and this, that, or the other could have been wrong. And it's still a nice pint, but it's the person's not going to go. The person will say like, what's he on about? It's not
I get you. Yeah.
So, and then you could go in somewhere average. They could be having a good day, but Gravediggers, Mulligans. Do you want to? Will we go stick with Dublin?
Yeah, stick with Dublin.
Yeah, I'd say Gravediggers, Mulligans on Poolbeg Street, unbelievable pub as well. One I've been going to a bit lately, the Stag's Head.
Okay,
The Walsh's and Stony Batter. Did you see that video your man made where he had the big like blown up face?
No, I don't think so.
He was I don't know if he's taking the piss directly out of me or like maybe the whole community. But right. Strick and Walsh and all that. I don't know, maybe put it up on the screen or something, but it was very funny. But there's, like I said, I don't really like naming one.
One
place, you know what I mean? Because
it
just means then that the rest of them are sub-par to that, and it doesn't really work
not the
like
case.
that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's cool. He's happy with that. I'm sure he'll happily go to all 3 or 4 you mentioned and taste them and
you can
come
do
back
that for a day and then ask me again.
His bags be packed at the door when you got back. He'll be waiting now. I wanted to ask you, because Guinness, some people seem it's like love at first sight, and for others it's an acquired taste. Your first point of Guinness, were you hooked from the start, or did it take a while to get there?
Absolutely. Like, I'm always very honest about this whole Guinness Guru thing. Like, I was now absolute, whatever I am now, I've gained a bit of knowledge because I've been doing it for a few years, but like I had some audacity to call myself a Guinness Guru when I started, because I was only drinking the stuff probably 2 or 3 years, and I started it when I was like 26. So it's not like I was drinking it since I was 18. I remember having my first, this is probably, how old are you lads?
25.
Yeah, this would be before yous were drinking, I would hope. So I'm 30, so yeah. So when I was like, when I was 16, please come and get me. It was Arthur's Day, like 2009. It was like this 250 year anniversary of Guinness, and I had my first can of Guinness then, and to be honest, I probably drank it out of the can, which wasn't a smart move. It was probably warm, but I just remember thinking, sweet Jesus, this is horrendous. And then I probably didn't touch it again until I was about maybe 20. Like when I was 18, it's the funny thing now, 18-year-olds are drinking Guinness and stout and all not because of me, but just because of the whole social media.
Yeah, it's a lot trendier.
It's a lot trendier, yeah. Whereas when I was 18, you'd have been looked at like a lunatic. So that was like, 12 years ago. So when I probably tried it when I was maybe 20, again, just didn't like it. But then I don't really remember a particular moment where I was like, oh, I actually like it now. But it's like, I don't know, you just have a couple more, and then since then I've always just found it's like, if we went down the pub now and we're like, right, you know, early kick-off, we're going to be in the pub all day. If I was drinking beer, I'd be in absolute rag order. Not drunk, but I'd be so gassy,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas this one Guinness just kind of goes down pretty smooth. So, but yeah, and then even when I started and I was calling it Guinness Guru, it was just called like, I was thinking, pint reviews or Guinness Guy or something, and then Guinness Guru was just fairly catchy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just
Yeah,
did that.
true.
And then like the comments at the start were always, because if you go to my earlier videos, jeez, I'm talking about my absolute hole.
Really?
Oh, I still do. But Jesus Christ, it's just, I hadn't a clue. I didn't even know like there's a pub called Kyo's on St. Anne Street, whatever, just off Grafton Street. Like everyone knows it, really famous pub. I went there, and keep in mind, I was literally like 26 years old, like I was a grown man. I'd never even heard of it, like, so I have no problem putting my hand up and saying I completely bullshitted my way through those first couple of years, and then learned a little bit of stuff. So, but yeah, fuck, I think it's easier to take the piss out of yourself before other people do.
Yes,
so I always just say Guinness Guru my arse. I'd nearly like comment that under my own stuff before the other people get there.
There's something about self-deprecating humor that just brings everyone together, doesn't it?
And that's like all my favorite shows and all are like those kind of mockumentaries, like you know, The Office, UK Office, like Trailer Park Boys, all these shows that are the guys who are looking like absolute idiots in the show. They've written the show. You know what I mean? I think that's like the peak of comedy, where you can just totally like you write yourself as an absolute fucking idiot. Like it's nearly like a character you're playing.
True. Sick. A lot of the terms you use, like splitting the G or domage and all those things, are they stuff you knew prior to coming into this, or are they stuff you made up like along the way?
Okay, so I have to be. That's credit. Credit is very important in this life, isn't it? So I think. So first one was, so I started Guinness Guru, the channel, with a guy called Colin Maylard. I always have to give him his shout out. He was the kind of one who came to me, and he saw I was doing random shit on YouTube, and he saw your man Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports doing the pizza reviews, and he said, maybe you could do this with Guinness. And he came around, he was on the camera for the first while, and we started doing it. And he, from the get-go, to be honest, I never asked him if he just thought of it or someone said it to him, but he had said like shtick from the very start. So that was all cozy. And then Split the G we were having pints for a friend who was going away to Australia, and a friend of mine, Sean Kent, he's gotten about 1 million shout outs on my channel, but he said, did you ever split the G? And I'd been doing the Guinness Guru thing probably only about 6 months or a year, and then we started doing that, and then nearly the most messages. I always get messages. I wake up to messages from lads at like 12 o'clock or 1 in the morning, and they're sending it from the pub, and it's like, settle a debate, is it split the G or is it split the harp and the top of the thing? I just say split the G because like there I was like stumbling out, split the harp and like it's all about what rolls off the tongue, so split the G is easier. So that was him. I think the only one I thought of was domage, and because me and my mates would just put edge after anything.
Fair.
But then it goes on to like kind of Dome Alone, Domer Simpson, like Dome, all this
it just takes a life of its own.
Takes a life of its own, yeah. So that's, I think that's the main three kind of silly phrases.
It's funny because you walk into any pub and they're like just terms that people just say now randomly.
I know, it is wild, and I think like we'll probably get into it at some stage, but yeah, like over the last say few months, I kind of said I'm changing from Guinness Guru just to Daragh Curran, and I still stand by that was a good move, because like just in terms of any sort of
brand
with anyone else in the future.
Yeah.
But there was like 6 months where I was going around, and I know you said you didn't mind where I was eating if it was a toasty or whatever, it wasn't even that it was just when you've got the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Of course, yep.
When you've got a niche like Guinness, you're like, oh, I'm very much pigeonholed here. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. Yeah. But you've got another 100 video ideas just like that, because you're like, I'll just go to this place, I'll go to that place. And then on the other hand, when you take that niche away, you're not pigeonholed, but then what are you?
Like people need
to, people need to be able to show you to their friend on their phone and go, I should follow this lad. And they should be able to sum you up in two or three words. So if he goes around and drinks pints, so be it. Do you know what I mean? That's grand. So I think I went so far away from trying to be known just for Guinness that I went away from the actual pub stuff.
Yes,
which is what I, like I said in that video, that's actually what I've fallen in love with. What was the question?
It started off with the terms damage or whatever else, but like I think where you're going with it.
So what you're saying about and then I had to step back and go, well, yeah, like again, and I'm always very conscious. I'm not trying to sit here and say I've fucking done anything great, but like that is the case. Like you go into pubs and say 50%, the lads who are saying the words, whatever, and then there's the other lads who are rolling their eyes, going, "Oh my god, But it's still there and it's still around the place. So it is kind of mad, yeah. Like it's people probably saying shtick and damage who maybe never even heard of me, kind of thing, which is kind of cool as well. So, it definitely. I don't know if it's the new year. I'm not really one of these. I'm definitely not a new year, new me type of person. But there's just something a bit different in the air. I don't know, in my brain or what it is, but just seeing things a bit more clearly. And it's like, well, look at what you've built up, and you're not don't just throw that away completely, you know. So that's where we're at.
Oh, definitely. If you don't mind that, if we step back in time a little bit, because obviously I only saw you. I know you had done stuff on YouTube pre Guinness Guru, but that was Guinness Guru.
No, we can talk about it. That's not even worth looking up.
I tried to look it up yesterday. I couldn't find it.
Well, even before that, like, so Daragh, who's looking at a CEO, doesn't know what the fuck he wants to do.
Yeah.
From like 18 up until when you started doing the Guinness Guru, what was life looking like for you, and what were you doing at that time?
I mean, I always enjoyed myself. Do you know what I mean? 18. So out of school, no idea what I wanted to do. Was playing rugby. Was playing a little bit of. This isn't a brag. This is just part of the story. It was like just underage, like under 18 Leinster rugby, and it was more so. I'm not just saying it. It was just because you see the size of me. I'm just massive.
He's about 6'7", is it?
6'7", yeah. So
were you that age or that height?
I was, yeah. I was that height from about 16, 17.
Fuck right,
I took a growth spurt in between, like, I think I went from like 6'2" to 6'5" between like the summer of 6'2" was already tall for like a 14-year-old.
Our growth spurt was from 5 foot to 5'2".
Yeah. Fuck's sake.
So it was like between third year and fourth year that summer. Again, I grew like 3 or 4 inches, which is wild. Then I was going to school real awkward. Like, you know, I like to think I walk tall and proud now, and I carry it somewhat well. We were saying, like, I said, whatever, we said 6'7" before, and you're like Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think sometimes people are like, to me, you're not 6'7", because they think of Peter Crouch and he's this big,
tall, lanky,
long. I'm lucky that I've like a bit of size-ish on me, and I'm not too kind of angry, whatever. But so yeah, I was playing rugby, got a rugby scholarship for DIT, did a shite leaving cert, just about got a hospitality management course, and I didn't even know what hospitality even was. So I just saw management. I was like, that's like a business degree, that'll be grand. And I go into college, and I'm only going because I've gotten this scholarship for DIT, and I knew if I knew it was going to be like 1,500 quid or something at the end of the year. So I rock into college, no idea what to expect, just expecting to do maybe a bit of management and probably, I don't know, business and accounting and economics now, which I still would have been absolutely brutal at. But I got in, and the first thing, we're all sitting in the lecture hall, and the guy comes in, he's like the year head, and he's like, right, so first thing, you need to buy a set of knives, you need to buy a chef uniform, and you need to buy a waiter uniform. And that comes to a total of about 800 quid. And I literally stuck my hand up, I was like, sorry, what course is this? And he's like, hospitality management. And then turns out, obviously, hospitality management basically means like hotels. So we were learning how to cook. We were like,
mad.
It was in Cahill Brewer Street where they do the culinary stuff. So it was like, we were learning how to cook, which is obviously, I learned how to cook a little bit. But then, like, when it came to the part where you had to do the weight and stuff, I didn't feel like, I was just like, I'm not going to be doing this course. I'm just going to go in as little as I can, stay to the end of the year, and get my like 1,500 quid. So I literally, like, I sat through the exams. I remember on one of the exams, it was like a food and beverage exam or something. I think I went to about 2 classes, and then there was one time where I went to on the exam, I literally just wrote, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm dropping out, blah, 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 blah. I hope you appreciate that. And just left it blank, and then left.
No way.
And I'm sure the woman correcting it was like, because I remember I was in like one of her classes. I'd say she just went, fair play. He's not going to write a load of bollocks and fail anyway. And then there was a time where I was in like an economics economics class for maybe like the second time. Went in and I was wearing a red jumper, and your man literally goes, it's like halfway through the class, he points up to the back of the class and he's like, sorry, red jump, this is like, it's like 2 months before the end of the year, and he's like, red jumper, who are you? And I was like, oh, yeah, like I just had to explain that. I just was never went in. The only thing I learned from college was how to cook a steak.
Solid.
And I still have that.
It's an important life lesson, that.
Yeah. And then what? So that was like a year, it was like 19, and then worked in Jack and Jones in Ashburn, worked in Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh yes,
believe it or not.
Yeah, nice.
I wasn't even. I was kind of one of the grunts in the back. They basically had like, it was like everyone in there was like decent looking, but you could tell who was going to be working on the floor and who was going to be working in the back, because like the people in the back would bring stuff out to the floor.
Yeah.
And I was nearly like, fucking get back in
back there. Yeah.
So that was a real weird experience working there. And then moved to, then what? I always did like a job for like a year,
right,
and then would just
move on,
stick around and then move on to something else. Gladly, I can happily say, I'd say I've had about 25 jobs in my life, and I never got sacked from one. So that's one thing I could say about myself. Then 2016, went to New Zealand for a year. That was a whole other story about supposed to be going to play a bit of rugby, and did my shoulder, all this other stuff. Came back. Then as I was going into Guinness Guru, the kind of 5 years before that, I was a painter decorator.
Yes.
And then I thought I was going to be a PT, so I worked in a gym. I got my PT, the degree or whatever
qualification thing.
Yeah, degree is a bit strong.
Yeah.
Figured I worked in a gym, ended up not really liking that. Tried to run events, ended up not really liking that. And then I just was doing my own shite on YouTube, pretty much ripping off James Corden, getting kind of
buckle up, was that?
Buckle up,
Yeah.
Getting kind of just Dublin based, say up and coming artists to sit in the car with me, and like, it's only when I look back that they probably got like 200-300 views, and I don't look back and care about the views, but I definitely think that sort of stuff, and it's only talking about it now that like those days are definitely kind of help to contribute towards whatever we can say I've achieved now. Do you know what I mean? Because I was only telling you lads about the Guinness Guru show that I tried to do a couple of years ago, and I was filming it and checking audio and all this sort of stuff, whereas like you lads have the right idea. You're in here, you have a producer who's looking after all that, and you can just focus on the questions.
Yeah.
But like that buckle up was mental. Like I had a camera in the car. I had learned like 3 or 4 of these people's songs front to back. I'm like on the audio, I'm driving as well, and we're singing, we're interviewing. Like it was actually total one-man show, but it was a bit of a shit show as well.
Yeah,
definitely put a bit of help me earn my stripes. You know what I mean?
Big time, yeah.
And then that, but also because I was doing that, your man Coolsey saw that and he said, "Oh, I see you're doing stuff on YouTube." Like we weren't like mates or anything. He played football with my brother. Like we knew of each other, but it wasn't like we were just in the pub going. I think everyone just thinks I was in the pub with a mate and, "Oh, let's film this for you."
Yeah.
It was very much like we thought this was going to be a business and that we could make something out of it and blah blah blah. So, so that was that's the whole spiel, I suppose. In the last 12 years.
Well summarised.
Yeah, it's a fucking life well. If you die tomorrow,
yeah, like, and there's a million other things happening in between, but. Yeah, we'll leave that for the book.
Yeah. With Leinster, what happened? Did you just not progress beyond the
pretty much
18s, was it? Yeah.
Like I could sit here and say, I had injuries, but everyone has injuries, but I just flat out just wasn't. Like they were looking at me going, "You are huge." Like, it's very rare. Like in rugby, it's like gold dust to have someone my height.
True, actually,
who can,
actually move,
catch a ball, and so. But like I was with rugby, like I was never aggressive enough. Do you know what I mean? And even if things went differently, I might have been like one of those lads who kind of plays a bit of. So there's Leinster, and then there's like Leinster A, which is kind of the up and coming lads, or just the lads who never really broke through to the first team.
Yeah.
So you'd be kind of playing with like a good club and then playing the odd Leinster game. So I don't think I ever would have made a proper career out of it.
Yeah.
So I don't really have any regrets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even thinking back to those days, I think I was listening to your last podcast with Sam Shortall.
Yeah.
And he was saying, I really resonated with what he was saying. Now, this is nothing to do with the rugby, but I'll go on a tangent about like he comes across as whatever, good, confident guy, blah, blah, blah. And he was saying when he was younger, he really struggled with the initial meeting when you met people initially, and he said he got a lump in his throat. And like it's mad. Like if any of those Leinster lads I played with were looking at and I met a couple of them since, but we're looking at my videos or anything, because like I'd like to think I'm somewhat charismatic in the videos.
Yeah.
They'd be thinking that lad was literally a mute. I was so. Do you know the way sometimes you're like shy, but then around your mates you're a mad bastard. But then it's just you go into a new atmosphere, and that's what I was like with those rugby lads. And it was a lot of them were kind of. There was probably 3 or 4 of us who weren't in private schools, and then the rest of them were kind of in private school. And I just didn't know what to be saying to these lads. But also I was just. I don't know, I literally wouldn't say a word when I would go to those training sessions. It was the maddest thing ever. And I genuinely think going to New Zealand for that year, bag on my back, no one with me, forced to talk to people, and I came back and I was like a totally different person. So it's I can definitely relate to that, being younger and just going into social situations and you just freeze and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm glad I've come out the other end of that.
Served you well.
You did indeed.
With then, one thing that really stood out for me, and I mean this in like the most complimentary way possible, right?
Yeah.
But from seeing your journey up until where it's at now, it's like your willingness to just like kind of throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Oh, that's my
and roll with stuff.
Yeah.
And if it works, cool. Or if it doesn't work, cool, I'll try something else. It's like so admirable. But I think so many people are terrified of the idea of even throwing that shit at the wall in the first place in case it doesn't work out. Was that always something you were comfortable with, or is it something you think you've just grown more comfortable with the more you've done it?
I think that's always been my, like, that's the reason I'm here now, and I didn't give up after my 5th idea didn't work. Do you know what I mean? I listened to, and this guy, like, people are very polarized on this guy, but do you know Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yeah.
And you say his word, people probably nearly go, oh, for fuck's sake.
Turn
I'm
off
not
the
going to
podcast.
start going on about motivational stuff at all. But I consume so much, and I find with these motivational things, you consume them when you're like, when things aren't really going your way. And then once you're kind of on your way, then you're kind of like, leave that to the side. I don't need it for now. So it's funny how you kind of, how we work around those things. But when I was starting out doing any sort of video thing, like 2018, 2019, like I was listening to Gary V every minute of every day. And the message was always like, he'd be interviewing someone who's like 42 and he's like, oh yeah, it hasn't really popped for me yet. And he's like, you're only 42. And maybe someone who's like 80 and he's like, you're all the memes now, it's like someone's on their deathbed. Yeah. He's like, you still got time, you're only 99 years old. And so it's like a bit of a piss take as well. But he used to always say like, just enjoy being, the word was like in the dirt. So just, you're down in the dirt, like, and you're scratching and you're clawing for anything you get. And I've always, and even my missus, like I would joke with my missus, she thinks like I'm a bit of a weirdo, because she'd nearly be sitting there going, and she's doing great in her own right, and she'd kind of go, do you ever want to just fast forward to like 10 years and you'd hope we're successful and you've got kids and you're living, and I was like, no, I think in 10 years I'll miss the I'm not going to use the word grind, but whatever, just getting after it. And it was always like, I've always said, and if you watch videos down the year, it was always throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that's all you can do. And I think when you're not, like, there's certain people out there who are supernaturally talented at certain things. I don't think that's me. I have a lot of confidence in my ability to get in somewhere and learn quick and work around and then climb a ladder and stuff. But I don't think I have that natural off the back kind of thing. Yeah. So that's always been, I've always been comfortable in, I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work, even Guinness Guru, that was just the next thing. I'll try this if it doesn't work, but I'll give it a good go as well, because there's a fine line to be like, all right, that one bit of shit didn't stick on the wall, I'm going to go to the next. You have to give it at least, at least a couple of years or something, you know, and you have to give it your all as well. It can't be half-arsed.
Yeah. That's a good. I don't know if this question is a bit redundant, but let me ask you it anyway. When you set up or started doing the Guinness Guru stuff, I'm not sure what you had in mind of what success would look like, but looking back, if we say like that Guinness Guru chapter of your life is closed, do you think you achieved what you set out to achieve with it? Or
absolutely,
yeah,
like it was never. I the goal for that was for it to be my income, and not for it to make me millions or anything like that, but for that to be my job. And that was from 2021 to I've been, say, self-employed. Depends if the tax man is looking. No, I've been self-employed since 2021, and I remember saying to myself, I started at like 26, and I said, if I can be if it's this Guinness Guru or it turns into something else, if I can be self-employed doing this sort of thing by the age of 30, I'll be happy. And it doesn't have to be millions, just self-employed and doing my own thing and making a living from, say, making videos. And it was whatever, like 28 or something like that. So I was delighted. And I remember thinking, like, even trying to get, like, I remember thinking if we get 1,000 subscribers in the first year and then maybe 5,000 by the second year, and same on YouTube, like, I'm just obsessed with YouTube. Like, I've got decent followers on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. Sounding such an outlet. TikTok.
Culture lad.
And the TikTok.
That's the meat in you coming out there.
Yeah, YouTube for me is everything. And so there's like 60,000 subscribers there. And for me, some people could say some people would think that's huge. Some people think that's nothing. In my own head, I'm like, I got 60,000 subscribers from going around to pubs. Like, I'm more. If you said that to the 26-year-old me, like, I'd just hold your arm off, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
like,
definitely. I always try to think of it in terms of like football stadiums.
Yeah,
like,
true. Yeah,
what stadium could you sell out? Like 60,000? That's about Anfield, is it? Yeah. It's a big old stadium. What's Crow Park? 70 or 80?
It's 82.
But then
that's
there's like 400,000 TikTok followers or followers, but like that hasn't grown in probably 2 years. So it's very much like you can look at a picture and go, holy shit, he's got 400,000 TikTok subscribers. He must be loaded. Subscribers, followers, whatever the fuck. He must be doing great. And it's like I said, followers, that's one thing I'd say to anyone listening who's trying to build up an audience and stuff like that. Followers are one thing, but it's keeping them engaged. And actually, if you're trying to actually make a career out of it, totally different story. Someone could have 10,000 followers and be much smarter than someone with 100,000 and be actually making a bit of a career out of that, whereas the person with 100,000 is just dicking around. And it just depends what you want out of it. If you're happy with just getting the followers and sticking with your day job, then grand. But if you're trying to actually make it a career, you learn so much.
It's a good point, actually. In terms of like two young people who aren't monetizing at the moment, if that was something we wanted to do, is there any lessons you will pass on or tips or anything like that?
Well, so you saying strictly from the podcast?
For now,
let's run with that.
I mean, podcasts are tricky. Obviously, there's so many. I would say, like, I like to do my little bit of research if I'm coming on a podcast, and I would have looked up this podcast and I would have seen you'd be checking, right, are they uploading the shorts? Do they look good? You've got your captions and all that sort of stuff. Then you've got the good video, good audio, and then even it's on video on Spotify. So I'd say you're doing everything right from the get-go. Only problem is for me, not about the podcast, I wouldn't really feel qualified to give advice on growing a podcast. Because I've tried 3 times to make a podcast work, and I wouldn't say I've failed, because it's all helped towards the bigger picture. But podcasts are kind of, the thing I find about podcasts is, and I'm sure you're finding, the whole guest aspect is, there's a pressure there that I don't really like. When I'm doing my own thing, I just get my cameraman, right, let's film on this day. And then I'm getting guests, don't get me wrong, like pub owners and stuff. You know they're going to be in the pub, and you just ring them up and say, will you be there that day? Grand. Whereas the constant pressure of trying to get a guest, like we have to put a podcast out every week, or if it's a season, like for 10 weeks in a row, then it becomes a bit trickier. But the only thing I'd say to you lads is, like, you have good heads on your shoulders, and the more, whatever standard, podcast seems to be at a decent standard now in terms of you're prepared, you've got questions, blah, blah, blah. Whatever that's at now will be, if you stick at it for, and not, people hate to hear it, but it's like 2-3 years. Imagine what the standard would be then if it's already pretty good at the minute. And you'll be so much more experienced. Everything's already flowing naturally, but things can always improve. So it's,
of course,
that's one thing I would be somewhat expert in, is the being patient and not waiting for things to happen, but doing everything you can, and also being patient with it, because it's just, especially in such a saturated world of people have a billion different things they could stick on and listen to. If it's going to be you, that they might have to see 50 clips before they actually go. Like, think of any of the podcasts you listen to now. You don't see one clip on TikTok and go, I'm going to go and listen to that podcast.
That full hour and a half thing.
Hour and a half. You see it like 50 times and you go, all right. Or you see someone you love is on the podcast.
Yes, yeah.
You go and you go, yeah, that was all right. And then they might come back in 2 years.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah,
It's wild, like trying to get people's attention. It's all just trying to get people's attention.
It is, yeah.
100%. And I find that as well with the podcast, like, because obviously as podcasters, like, we try to listen to a lot of different podcasts just to try what questions they ask in what way do they approach topics. But like when you look on like the YouTube things, like 1 hour 45 minutes, you're like, oh fucking hell, that's a long time.
I know, yeah, and it's so hard to know like where to be putting it, like YouTube, like and that's what I always struggle with, because my last one, I didn't even call it a podcast. I called it the Guinness Guru show, because I thought it was more of a visual thing. But then you just stick it on Spotify because you're like, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Someone might be driving and they couldn't be arsed watching it. But it was like we were pulling points and all at the start. So I'm like, this is pretty shite if you're listening.
Yeah,
to this.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But then you go on, like I would, even my favorite podcast, I would never go on YouTube and click an hour and 10. Like I have the YouTube Premium, which is essential. It'll change your life, honestly.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, no ads, and you can listen to it. You can like leave YouTube and still listen.
Honestly,
okay.
That's YouTube's biggest drawback, is you have to stay in the app.
Okay,
You see the ads for Premium, and you're like, oh, what a pain in the arse. And I remember I just got it, and it's like I don't know, $10 a month or something. It's like Spotify, but it's an absolute game changer, because it's like, so I had that podcast on, that I was your podcast on in the car, and I'm just, it's just like you can just put it away to the side and it still plays. So I don't even know, am I on YouTube or am I on Spotify or whatever, but but then you feel like, why not put it on YouTube as well? So I honestly think like the setup you lads have is as good as it could be, and you have a good foundation, and just keep banging out the episodes.
Throwing away.
Then obviously the money is a whole other thing. Like it's like trying to get a sponsor and all this sort of stuff, but it's like you can chase it as much as you want, and then one day someone will just pop into your and all this sort of stuff. So it's if you've got your stable income on during the week, I'd say just focus on trying to get like 100 episodes out. And go
I like
there.
it.
And that's the thing people really, and that's
like, oh, can I just skip that part and get to the bit where I get the money? No,
that's where I go back to all the Gary V shite, and it's like I was always kind of all right with that. It's like, right, you're 26, nothing probably going to happen until you're about 30, and I was like, yeah, because nothing ever happened
leading up to
away. From nothing I ever tried, like popped off right away. Do you know what I mean? So that's I'm comfortable in that, you know.
It's an interesting, dead sound, especially that balance of like, because it's a tough one to get the like, for us, for the podcast, let's say, right, us being willing to accept that, right, we're gonna go and give this everything and do our best to make it the best we can, and at the same time be cool with the fact it's going to take time to see a result at the end of it, and getting that balance of like, we're going to control everything we can control, but also accepting that there's some really important shit that we can't really control in terms of the timeline or when that result's going to come, and being accepting that, okay, we'll just have to keep going with this, and we'll get there.
It's just experience. Like it's that thing where you're like, you're going for a job and you're like 18 and they're like, you don't have any prior experience. What are you supposed to do? People, that's like, I don't really listen to Joe Rogan, but like that's why he's the best example of that. He's got 15 years experience.
Ridiculous.
Like, he gets the guests in, he doesn't even have anything prepared. He just has the, like no one else would do that.
He's a joint on one guy.
Episodes beyond
he just sits and goes, all right, so what's the crack, blah 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 blah, and he can only do that because he's been doing it for 15 years.
The reps he's had previous,
repetition and all that sort of stuff. So like that, you're sitting here in 100 episodes time, like podcast's already good, it'll be even 10 times better. So just repetitions, episodes,
keep going,
trying to get decent guests, go. If you have to get guests on a few times, no one give a shit, especially with someone you got a good response to. Get them on as much as they'll come back, you know what I mean? So
what's your schedule like the next few months?
Season 3 is just Guinness Guru.
See if this one flops or not.
But I wanted to ask you, because obviously it's a very good point that you're gonna have to put 100% into something and wait 4 or 5 years, and then you'll be able to judge if it was a success or not. But that whole timeline with the Guinness Guru, was there any point where you felt like walking away and things weren't progressing, or were you always just this is where I'm at and I'm cool with that.
Like there's always times where you feel like walking away, but you know you're not gonna.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I never seriously contemplated it.
It's like when you're fighting with the missus.
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
I might break up with her, but I really want that.
Being single sounds good, actually.
Yeah. So, I remember there was, I suppose even to back up what I'm saying, like we were probably only maybe 10 videos in. The very start, me and Coles, we were going around town, hadn't a clue what we were at. We would go into pubs, and I didn't even have the balls to tell them I was the review, and I'd just be like, I'm doing a documentary on pints, and we'd copy and Dave Portnoy. We'd go outside the front of the place. This is like November.
Okay, right.
We're rating pints now, so it was it was shite, like, and the views were very low, and it was only about the third or fourth night we'd actually gone in to film, and we'd film like 3 or 4 each time. I just remember it was walk around Temple Bar, absolutely pissing rain, and I just remember saying to Cozy, like, I'm not doing this for no reason. Like, I'm going to stick this out as long, even though we've just started, I'm going to stick this out as long as we need to, because I'm not walking around Temple Bar getting absolutely pissed on. I'll be getting fucking hypothermia just for nothing. And then I suppose when COVID started, like it was one of those classic things where I had just started to get a bit of traction, because we were doing individual pubs. There was no traction at all. Started going to towns then. We're just going towns around Ashburn. So it was like Dunboyne and Trim and Navan and all this. And they started getting, like, maybe 500 views or 1,000 views. And they'd be getting like 10 before that.
Yeah.
So we're like, this is great. We did like 5 or 6 of them. And then COVID came, and I just remember thinking, you must be joking. Like, I've been trying my hardest for like 2-3 years now to make something happen. And something's tiny little glimmer of it working. And bam, gone. So then that was a bit grim. But then during COVID, I just said to myself, I'm going to make a video every day, because I'm sitting on my arse. I was a painter decorator, so I couldn't work from home. Yeah. Sitting on my arse saying, doesn't matter how bad the video is, I genuinely don't care. Once I had about 500 YouTube subscribers, I said, just a video a day. So I went down to O'Brien's, bought about 15 different types of craft beers and all this, literally anything, just to do a little review every day. And then maybe May or June of COVID, so like this is like 4 months later, and a mate of mine on Instagram, Pint Man Appreciation is his Instagram, and he said, just showed me a picture of Guinness mixed with Blue Wicked, and he was like, do you ever try this? So I did that, put it on Instagram, got a few views, did one like Smirnoff Ice, did one with Iron Brew, and then again the Gary V thing, he'd been going on about TikTok.
Right.
And I was like, well, it's this TikTok thing, it's for dancing, it's for kids. I said, well, I'm not doing that now, so I'll throw the videos up on those 3 videos that were already made. I'll fire them up on TikTok. Had like 2,000 followers overnight. I just started a TikTok account, like 2,000 followers overnight, and I thought, right, there's something in this. And then that was probably by a million miles the most it ever grew. So it was like 0 to 300,000 followers in about 2 months, and you'd wake up with like 10,000 follower notification. But I was mixing Guinness with all this other shit, so it was a bit weird, because it was like, I don't want to be doing this sort of thing, but it's getting the views. So I learned a lot in that time of like not letting the views kind of get to your head and stuff. And you gotta get a mix between following what you're passionate about and then what's popular. Yeah. So then that was a bit of a spike, and then probably like only last year, kind of when I when I said giving up the Guinness Guru name, blah blah blah, and it was not like depressing few months, but it was just, I was so lost. Do you know what I mean? And I'd gone from having such a solid run, building up a YouTube, knowing exactly what I was doing, to changing it up, and then just thinking I might as well be back to square one here. Like, so it is such an up and down. You look at the thing that goes up like this, and it's actually just total squiggle.
The graph.
So it's honestly, to anyone trying and at the early stages, you just don't keep trying different shit and don't give in, and it's just going to take forever, unfortunately.
That's a good answer. I have a favourite Guinness Guru video from when you used to make them, but I want to ask you first, what was your favourite one to make when you look back at them all?
Is it like just a TikTok or like a YouTube?
YouTube video. as in like a place to visit or whatever.
So I always said when people said, where's it? So basically for about 2 years, all I was doing was going, that's why I say about when you have the niche, you know, it's the video ideas, you don't have to think about them. You just go to the next town. And for like 2021 and 2, once COVID kind of loosened up a bit, it was straight. I was going up north because that was open, and then I was going all around the big cities, Galway, Cork, and these videos were getting like 50,000, 100,000 views, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is exactly where I want to be. And people would say, where's the ultimate place you'd love to go and do reviews? And I said New York, because I knew like there's a lot of Irish in New York. Like there might be okay Guinness there. I love New York. I've been there a few times, and I just pictured myself there thinking that'd be the pinnacle for me. I got to do it. And went over there, and when I look back on that video and I look at like the intro and I'm like, right lads, we did it, we got here. But I look and I'm going like, that guy there knows like he quote unquote made it for that moment of his life anyway. Because I was just buzzing, and I enjoy. I love the video. There's a couple of videos, but I love the video. But it's the knowing how I felt when I was filming it. I felt like I was on top of the world. Like, so I would definitely say I think it's called Best Guinness in Manhattan. There's like a 2-part or something, but that's for me. That's because I knew that's when it peaked. And it kind of was downhill.
Should have just stopped there.
Literally.
What was yours, Lee?
My favourite. Well, I really liked the one in LA. We were in Mo's pub, the Mo's Tavern. That was
so random. I think it was like shot on my phone. You can barely even hear me.
And it was like 20 quid for a pint or something. But my favourite,
it wasn't even a Guinness.
It wasn't. No, it was just a fucking duff beer. My favourite Guinness video was the Early House one that you done in Dublin. I really liked that one. I just had no. I knew early houses. Like I knew what it was, but I didn't know where there was one or like what
because there was like a rare bit of education in there. Usually in my videos.
And it's just so weird seeing somebody having a pint of Guinness at like 8:30 in the morning.
Madness.
That was good crack. That was one where you're just going in completely unknown, because I rarely would ring up pubs. Like I would now if I was kind of, the new videos is more just kind of chatting to the owners and getting a bit of history of the pub. You have to make sure they're going to be there and to talk to you. But when I was going to be doing any sort of reviews or anything, I just didn't want to ring ahead because I just wanted it to look kind of authentic. But that obviously means you're going in, camera in your hand, not knowing what you're going to be met with. And so the early houses, they would have been, for context, it's basically a pub that opens super early. So they have a license to open from like 7 in the morning. And they would have been popular. There's videos, if you look up like Cork Early House, there's a video from like the 80s and all these lads. The idea was for people who used to work night shifts, so like for fishermen, doctors, nurses, they could come in after their shift and have a drink like anyone would. And then it just, over the last probably few decades, it just kind of went the way of, which you'd nearly more expect, people going in, like kind of alcoholics going in at 7 in the morning, even before work. And then when I went to two of them.
To Windjammer.
Windjammer, yeah. I went into the Windjammer, and there was lads there, and I'm usually very careful with the camera anyway, because I don't like to put, generally you see these people on like YouTube and they just put a camera in people's faces. They didn't ask to be on any video, like, and they're like taking the piss out of them and all. Like, that shit really grinds my gears. So I'd be very careful and not, obviously look, there's going to be people in the background of my videos, but I wouldn't. You're going into a pub at 7 in the morning. There's a lad sitting there in his painting trousers. I don't think he wants to be on camera. So
he was in my gaff later that day.
You're doing my skirt.
I asked that wall to be white as fuck.
And like, geez, the looks these lads were lit. I had the camera proper like pushed against my leg, so they knew I wouldn't. And they were like, "What's that? That's not on, is it? That's not on. Make sure you're not recording me." But. Yeah, and then obviously drinking it. I don't think I was there at 7 a.m. I think it was about 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
But the Guinness still tasted as good, I'm not going to lie. I thought it would be, like, I'd taste the toothpaste in my mouth. I thought it'd be rotten. But so you know yourself when you're going on like a trip or something and you have a cheeky pint in the airport, it's always going to taste decent, especially when you're giddy. Yeah, that's interesting. If I'd have picked 20 videos that I thought you'd have said was your favourite, I don't think I'd have said that one, but it's cool.
So, Daragh, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that you had essentially got yourself to a point where you were kind of making a living doing the Guinness Guru stuff for ourselves, but anyone watching, like, where does that money come from? The idea would be like, oh, so you're just getting paid like to walk around, drink Guinness, and you'd have to share numbers, but is it like some comes from the YouTube views, some comes from sponsorships or brand deals? Like, what's the kind of breakdown of that?
So, yeah, it's gas. Like, when I started doing Guinness Guru, or when I was painting with my good friend Gav, GK, paint and decorating, shout out. And when I left him, we'd be kind of involved in like the local rugby club.
Right.
And like I remember being in the pub, and it's always like the question is, or like people always be asking my mum like, how is he making money from that? And that's what people always, and even young and old, but it's like the old lads, you'd be sitting in the pub and they'd be, I don't know, someone would reference something about Guinness.
Oh, you're living the dream.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But like say you'd be up at a rugby match or something, and one of the rugby old lads, someone would explain it to him, and he'd literally be like, how the fuck? he's just thinking like, back in my day, you wouldn't get away with that. Like, how the fuck do you make any money from that? So it literally, like, and like I said, it was never any like amazing money, but all I wanted was for it to be
livable,
and say I'm 30 now, and I feel like I have a good platform built up that I can build on that now, whatever. But yeah, it's the YouTube views are probably. Hate to burst anyone's bubble, but unless you're like Mr. Beast, they're not going to pay your bills. They're insane. The YouTube revenue is probably 10% of what it was like 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because they just clamp down on so many things, and just the general like click money per video or money. I won't get into the specifics, but it's just way lower. Like say if you got a video with 100,000 views 8-9 years ago. You could have made like, I don't really know, you might have made a couple of grand off it. Yeah. Whereas now it's probably like 200-300 quid.
Right, okay.
So if I get a video that does 100,000 views, I'm like ecstatic. Do you know what I mean? But it's still a couple of hundred quid. So it's not, I'm not buying a Lamborghini with that. Though, So it's just the sponsors. Like, and I've been very lucky. There's a sponsor, it actually sponsors a million different podcasts called Manscaped. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And they reached out to me in 2020 when I just started doing a podcast called Only Cans. And it was just the interview on Zoom, interviewing people talking about pub stories and drinking, blah, blah, blah. And they were paying me very, very little per episode. I'd happily say it, but it's just, you don't know what day.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But over the years, that's the only kind of brand sponsor I've been with literally since then, and this is like 2024 now, so that's rare. Like usually it's one video or 6 months, and then it's kind of chopping and changing. That's how it's been with everyone else. But I'll be honest, if I didn't have the Manscaped stuff, I wouldn't have been able to be full time with it all. And then you just, I don't know, the contract comes around every 3 or 6 months, and you just kind of negotiate, and it's just gone up and up and up since then, and it's still not amazing, but you know, it just helps with the rent and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then in between that, so that's it. Like that'd be kind of 95% of my money. I never really did a whole lot of branded stuff on Instagram or TikTok. Kind of because I feel like I thought I was too cool, and I thought like, oh, that was a bit kind of sell-out-y. But at the end of the day, again, got into 2024, I'm just realizing like you got to play ball a bit. If you want to, like if a brand came to me and we're offering X amount, I'm thinking, well, if I take that, then I could pay a cameraman for a month. I could hire a video editor. But I'm not thinking, I can buy this cool thing. Do you know what I mean? So I want to, like, you might have to do the odd thing where you feel a little bit of an EJ, but it's gone back into the videos and stuff like that. And then like, again, people always, I sold merch for a while, and I'm not bragging, but I sold a good bit of it. Nice. But the money is awful. Like by time, I remember I sold like, there was one, I've done it, like tried it like 3 or 4 different ways. There's like Shopify, there's Printful, there's like print on demand, and then I did this thing where there's a guy in Ireland, he made like 200 hoodies, 200 t-shirts, 100 beanies. We sold them all within like, it was a Christmas thing, like maybe 2 years ago. Sold every item pretty much. You have the odd double XL left over, but let's say sold 95% of the inventory in like 10 days. And I thought, oh jeez, I'm going to make a good few thousand off this. I'm not joking you. When it all was said and done, I made about 500 quid off of 500 items. And I was like busting my bollocks not to make the stuff, but to market it.
Do all that
crap constantly and changing these designs. After all, it's another thing you learn about, lads, fucking what tax has to be paid where and all this sort of stuff. And I look into the camera and don't fuck around with that stuff. Because I'm lucky I haven't had to learn a lesson or anything, but you hear stories. And people think, you can, when you're in the early days, you can just kind of do it because they won't mind. But I've seen people getting looked into from like the second they went self-employed, and
Really,
it's they don't fuck about. So but it's, if you can get a couple of decent sponsors on board, and also what I've learned about myself, don't think you're above certain things. Like if you have to go and do, I'm not gonna name any brands, but just something you might see someone go, oh, that's a bit cringe. It's like,
right,
at the end of the day, it's not all fun and games. Like you're gonna have to do some, and that's a tough lesson to learn because I'm Mr. Authentic. Do you know what I mean? But that's the phrase I'm using to myself. You gotta play ball. Like you gotta
definitely,
You gotta kind of bit of give and take.
Exactly.
But that's
Good
I guess
points.
that's the money side of things.
And leading on to the money stuff, but just out of curiosity, when you were in, especially in the Guinness Guru days, going in, having a point, whatever else, do they charge you for the point, or do they give it to you on the house for the review? Or?
So obviously at the start when no one
Knew who you were,
you'd pay and grand, and then there was like an in-between period where we were getting, like, the odd person would give it to you for free. They probably wouldn't even know who you were, but they just, you're doing a video, you only have 1 pint, and they give it to you for free, and you'd be like, oh my god, like you'd feel like
Keep them coming.
You'd feel like you're like celebrity, you know what I mean? Like you just got something for free, like. And then after probably a few months, when it started doing actually kind of well, I just said to myself, I'm going to pay for every pint because I don't want any sort of bias, like. And at the end of the day, I'm not loaded, but like £5 or £6, it's not like I'm reviewing something that's worth $1,000.
Yeah,
it's like they give it to me for
Rolex
free. You're like,
a golden tomahawk steak.
exactly. So I just thought it's easier if I just, because sometimes they just be like, no, it's grand, and I'm like, I'm not leaving here until you let me pay, because I just want to, and I'm not trying to sound like Mr. fucking whatever, but I just thought that was easier, because if I get the pint and they give it to me for free and it's not a great pint,
true,
God, I'm going to look like a dick. If
you're kind of conflicted,
you're conflicted, so so I'd say I've
good point.
pretty much always try to pay for them.
I like it.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, man.
And people probably won't care about this listening, but I don't see any notes. Do you have all the questions in your head?
Pretty much, yeah.
So that's impressive to me. That's just a little side note from me.
Occasionally I might have my phone's over there. If it's like a guest who has like a particular niche that's like I'm not super, like we had Joe Doyle on last, and he's like big in the like construction space, and like growing your construction business, which is like kind of, I done a carpentry apprenticeship for a while, so like I can talk about a saw and stuff. Beyond that, so I was like, I had a couple of notes on my phone when he was in, just to make sure I was staying on track. But like this sort of general, and I've been following your stuff for so long. I could probably do the interview on your behalf.
We could stick leader
if you couldn't make it today. But I just put some stilts on to give me a few extra inches in there.
And are you like, do you ever finish a podcast and go, you didn't let me ask any questions?
We don't actually.
Or is it always, it seems pretty natural. It's not like you're going like over each other. It's kind of like you ask one, and if I ask two in a row, it's all good.
It's grand, honestly, the only thing we kind of figure out beforehand is who's going to do the intro.
Okay,
and then outside of that, it's like whatever happens, kind of happens.
Yeah, it's a good, like, I was trying to think, what's these lads' niche? But it's like, that's a niche in itself. Like your twins is two hosts. You just need something that's a little bit different than everything else. So.
Some people look at us like we're a fucking like aliens. Like they see two people walk down the road who look alike. I was like, oh my god, what's wrong with these people?
But you aren't like, I'm only in Witches an hour, and I can very easily tell who's who. You aren't like, would you say you're identical?
We don't think so. It's weird. We get either that feedback that you said, like you kind of look like brothers, but I wouldn't say they're identical twins. And then other people who think with absolute image.
I mean, I would, don't get me wrong, I could easily mix these up.
Yeah.
But looking at you there, you're not like totally, which I think is probably easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Even the twins, we're from Clondalkin. There's another set of twins in Clondalkin. Well, there's a few, but there's one in particular, and it's like I feel bad because I can't tell them apart. I was like, you think you'd have like this twin alliance, whereas like all twins can do it, but like I'd look at them and haven't got.
No, I know that. Yeah, there's some people who are, and then there's some that don't even look like brothers.
Yeah.
It's
it's crazy.
We went to school, like there was twin brothers, Cormac and Luke, and one had red hair, one had black hair.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
I didn't even get twins. One's a boy, one's a girl.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a funny old world.
Yeah. I was just thought I'd drop that in. It's pretty impressive with the.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the past and what's been. Obviously, this is a new era in the life of Daragh Curran and
semi
new era.
So the caterpillar, and then he goes into Kilkeown,
And now he's the butterfly.
The butterfly.
6'7" butterfly.
Butterfly flapping down the.
It's like one of them dinosaurs that flying.
Velociraptor. So moving into this, let's say, new phase for yourself. Firstly, one thing that I think for humans in general, like change is always hard and tough in general. And there's always this, you probably heard it before, this idea of sunk costs. It's like when you've invested so much time and energy into doing something a certain way, it's very tough to just like put it to the side and move on. That's why loads of people just stay in relationships or jobs or whatever else that they don't really hate. For you now, moving into this new version of what was before Daragh the Pub Guru, did you feel any of that, like, I don't know, like you needed to cling on to everything that's gone before? I know we mentioned about like the domage, like all this stuff that was built up, or did it feel like you wanted to really separate yourself from that and create almost like something completely new and different?
That's what I would have said 6 months ago. I would have said, you know, I've pigeonholed myself for too long. All anyone is ever going to know me for is Guinness and pints and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But the problem was, if I could, kind of what I'm doing now is you give the people what they want. And also, like, the whole thing was I should have been looking to pivot, not make an astronomical change.
Yes,
because what I realized is, and I'm sure anyone else, and this is what surprised me the most and taught me a lot, is that even I knew that, like, you know, for the first, say, few weeks after you change, like, people still be saying this and blah, blah, blah. But then you realize, like, someone could meet me in 20 years. If say I went from Guinness stuff to doing content around DIY. In 20 years, someone could see me on the street and go, all right, Guinness Guru. And they wouldn't, because they maybe saw 2 videos 20 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
And you have to be all right with that. And I'm really grand with that now, because it's like, it could be known. It's not like I was like a porn star or something. It's like, you know, it's this awkward thing.
I've never seen that on the YouTube channel.
Exactly. So, like, people will be saying to me for the rest of my life, Guinness pints, and I'm completely all right with that, because you could be known for worse things. And like I said, I was trying so hard to get away from that Guinness name that I wasn't even doing pub videos, and that's my favorite thing to do. Like, I'm really genuinely do love going into pubs, talking to owners. I feel like when I interview people, I always get a better interview out of like older people.
Right, yeah.
They just have these great stories, and you just, I don't know, you don't feel like this sort of, they don't give a shite about the world of internet and TikTok, and they don't care that this will get the best views. They're just telling it from the heart, and it's always real, like, authentic. So definitely. And then also the hardest lesson to learn, but the best, is that in a nice possible way, no one gives a fuck about you. No one is updating their Instagram feed going, oh, Daragh hasn't posted in 2 days. Or, like, maybe the odd randomer might comment on a video saying you haven't posted a while, but like, people are so busy, and this has been said a million times by everyone, but people are so busy going about their day to day that they don't care that you've rebranded, they don't care that you've changed. They just, at the end of the day, and I'm saying this as a good thing, all you really are to 99% of your audience is 10, 15 seconds while they're taking a shite at work. And you should be honoured to be that 10 or 15 seconds, because they've actually stopped on your video for 10, they haven't flicked right away, they've stopped, or they might, while they're having their lunch in work, they might actually watch 5 minutes of your YouTube video. And for someone to actually do that, like, you should be literally honoured, because they could have watched a billion different things and they've actually chosen to watch you. So the lesson I've learned, I keep saying the lesson I've learned, but going into, say, the future, it's like, I could have kept doing the kind of pub videos, blah, 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 and then do the other stuff as well, instead of completely getting rid of one thing and trying to force something new on people. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
So it's like, you just like add, don't try to even change all that much, just add strings to your bow. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to get into, maybe, you know, I'm just knocking down doors, trying to see, can I, will a radio station give me any sort of thing, or this, that and the other, or trying to get into the world of sport or something like that. But and I feel like such a clear head now about kind of going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing, just on the Guinness thing, just to wrap that up, because everyone, when I tell people we had you coming on, they always had the same question, and you've answered it, I think, in every Q&A you've ever done. It's like, Does
Not
he
the
work
best-
with? Does he
not
work
the
with
best-
Guinness?
Oh,
Does he work
yeah.
with Guinness? Does
Yeah.
Guinness sponsor him? The answer, as far as I'm aware, from everything I've watched, is you've never officially had any partnership with Guinness or anything like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So that is that's probably the thing that people just presume the most, that they're just like. Even when we used to do the reviews at the start, like the old lads in the pubs just thought I was sent from Guinness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always thing people ask, and they're like, Jesus, that's so stupid from them that they haven't gotten you on board or taken you on. And like the thing I always say is like Guinness is one of the biggest companies in the world. Like alcohol wise, could be argued it's right up there.
Yeah,
Like, the biggest company in the
easily.
world. Probably the best marketing you've ever seen from any alcohol company. Like, what other company is known for their ads? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the relationship with Guinness, it's like it's just that it's always just been. I think we just watch each other. I know people in there, and like they kind of like I know Guinness knows me. Watch from afar. I've always felt they probably had a bit of fear around getting into bed with me because I was probably a bit more loose-lipped than
Right.
if they were to hire me, it would be I don't know what I would do. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm going around giving honest reviews on places, and I remember like I was in Cardiff once, and the Guinness was awful everywhere, and all the comments were from people from Cardiff saying this is so right, Guinness need to do something about this, and I was like, I try to shift the blame from the pub so it doesn't look as bad like I'm bashing one pub. And I said, look, I'm like looking at the camera, I go, if you're from Guinness and you're watching this, you need to come over to Cardiff and sort it out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure they're going to look at that and go, who's this arsehole think he is? Like, so it's definitely like, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I've made a whole career out of reviewing their product. And you saw again, not just down to me, but you saw the stats came out from like last year or something that Guinness sales have gone up by like 32%.
Oh shit!
Which
right.
is obviously huge. And
Yeah.
they didn't need to go up by 32%. They're still doing like they
Yeah.
would always do great regardless of this social media kind of thing or not. But you know, I'm sure I had a bit of a hand in up on their sales a little bit. But then I've done stuff just purely off of their products. So
Yes, yeah.
I'm probably the person least surprised by the lack of interaction.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're also they're a very kind of PC company. They kind of do things by the book and stuff, and I'm not Mr. Controversial, but it's it's not weird to me, but I get how it would be weird to other people.
Yeah. The next question I wanted to ask you then is not Guinness related at all, but
But I genuinely don't mind, like, because all the Guinness stuff as well, like, it's,
yeah. I'm sure every interaction you have with somebody on the street is something Guinness related.
yeah. So it's grand, like.
It is what it is. In terms of pubs, though,
Yeah.
I know you're the pub guru now. Might even go a step further and say you're a pub connoisseur, because in that video with the I think it was a Windjammer on Molloy's, and you were like, they have the nice varnished wood on the walls and stuff like that. You were going into detail. If Daragh Curran had to set up his own pub, what would that look like?
Oh God, yeah, that's something. Not that question, which is a really cool question. We have people that always say like, would you want to? Is the aim to open a pub eventually? And I used to say definitely not. I'm still like probably not. But I'd probably, I guess, as I get older and maybe a little bit more open to the idea, but I don't know if I'd want to actually be involved in like the real work.
Yes,
I love the marketing of it, like getting the promo out there, but the actual like ordering stock, and all
changing
that
cakes,
thing,
yeah.
like I'm not cut out for that. I don't have the brain for that, like, you know. But what would my pub look like? See, the problem is, like all these pubs that are my favorite pubs, they've been just sitting there like untouched for like. I always say I love a pub. There's a big difference between a real like authentic old gritty pub, but it's clean. Do you know what I mean? Like, they clean it every day. It's not some absolute kip that's filthy. So like those pubs, if I was to create a pub, you'd be kind of just mimicking, you know, like Gravediggers, Mulligans, these lovely pubs. But then it's easy to tell when something has been just kind of mimicked and it's not authentic. And there's actually, I think there's a company who like do set up Irish pubs abroad. You pay like 20 grand and they just come in with all the Guinness signs and all the bar stuff, and they put like wood on the wall, but you can just tell it's so fake.
It's fake. Yeah.
But I would say my ideal pub. Now I'm thinking of this from a standpoint of I'm going in there to drink. I don't give a shit if it makes me. So it would probably be for the people. Well, can't even see the size of this room if we're even on the thing. But what's the drink the size of this room is like maybe meters wise, like what 6 by 6 or 5 by 5 or something.
Yeah.
Not a hot.
Not
size
massive,
size of a large living room, and you go in, probably definitely a fireplace, old kind of varnished wood, and then just have a couple of taps behind the bar. But the fireplace would be a big thing.
Yeah.
I'd hire, if I had the money, I would just hire, not that you'd have to pay them much, I'd hire 3 or 4 out lads to just sit there Monday to Friday on the bar stool.
You'd have no shortage of applicants.
So when you go in, you get a good eye from them.
Yeah.
Not a looking down on you, but they're kind of eyeing you up like, who's this new lad? I just love that in pubs. Fire on. I'm going in there. I'm wearing me nice woolly jumper. I'm just thinking of like a pub in Dingle or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they're literally like old little terrace houses, and they've just been converted into pubs, but they haven't really converted them. They've just literally
stuck a couple of taps in and got a few outlets.
So just that real old. Everyone uses the term, but like old man pub.
Yeah.
Fire. But then you're thinking, I wouldn't really want to be in there on a hot summer's day, but then you might have a little beer garden there as well. But it would be extremely simple and just kind of very old school and authentic.
I like it. Another question, I think me and Adam have had this conversation a few times, because whenever we're drinking, we love picking at stuff, pretzels, nuts, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What's your favourite, I don't know what you call it, but like your favourite thing to pick at when you're drinking? And
Bar
do you think
snack
bar snack? Yeah. And do you think every pub should just have a little bowl on the table where they're just refilling them?
No, because then I say for myself, because like I'd be eating them without even wanting them.
Yeah,
true. In front of me,
Yeah.
I'll just keep shoveling it in until it's gone. And I also think like you go into an American bar and they have like the peanuts and everyone's just throwing it. I'm not a germaphobe, but like I wouldn't be mad on that. Like you don't know what dirty bastard has been sitting on the stool in front of you and just putting their hand in. I love scampi fries. I love bacon fries, but scampi fries, they're a bit filthy if you don't like them, but I'm mad about them. But like when we'd be out, say after watching a match in the pub or something, I have a mate, his name is Boilo, he'll appreciate the shout out, and he calls it the platter or charcuterie board, pub charcuterie board. So you just get, it's nothing special, like I always say, someone is sound, right? If they buy a pack of crisps in the pub and you can tell by the way they open it, if they open it normally and they're just like, oh, do you want one? They're grand, but they're not.
Yeah.
The way someone just rips the whole packet open and throws it in the middle of the table.
Yeah, tear it down the side.
It's in the middle of the table. It's not like, do you want one? It's this is what's mine is yours, lads.
Yes.
So you do that with, say, a packet of Tato or a King. Then you grab the scampi fries, the bacon fries, the peanuts, and you just dump it all on top. Nice. And it's just like a little pub platter. And lads can just go to town on that. So I like scampi fries, but if you just literally throw it all on, spend a bit of money, spend £5. And just dump it all down, and you're laughing all together.
I love it.
What a setup. I'm hungry now. Cut this one off and just head down. That's the closest. For you now, moving into this new phase with the pub guru and that side of things, what's some lessons you think you'll take, or like principles that helped you get to the level of success you did with the Guinness Guru that you think will stand to you now moving forward?
I suppose, say with the pub guru, as we're calling it now, and just lessons I'll be taking into, like, I'm definitely pub stuff, that's not going to change, but in other aspects of what I want to do, I'm going to, like I was saying, possibly radio, possibly sport, possibly presenting. The biggest lesson is just, like, I remember listening to, do you know your man Willem Dafoe?
Yeah.
He's in Spider-Man, a bit of a mad looking bastard, but he's really cool. And like, sometimes you always hear people like saying a certain thing and it doesn't really resonate with you until someone different says it a different way.
Yes, yeah.
And so people always say, you have to chase things and you have to follow things up and you have to kind of, go after things. But the way he said, I think it was him, he basically said, like, you have to muscle your way in. If you want to get in anywhere, like, you're not just going to be, people aren't going to come knocking on the door and go like, oh, you have a good YouTube channel, do you want to host our radio show, like, because people are too busy just running their own daily thing that they're not like constantly looking to get these new people in. So, and when you say muscle your way in. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just like emailing people, knocking on doors. Go in somewhere if you have to. What's the worst that can happen? They'll say,
go away.
No, we're grand, or we'll keep you on file. And just that thought of like, if you're watching, I'm using my elbows here, pretending or if you're listening, literally just imagine like nothing's going to be given to you. It's just forcing your way nearly into, so someone can see what you're capable of. Yeah. Especially, I'd be very, very confident. I've learned so much over the last 3-4 years that if someone gave me an opportunity to do nearly anything that was involved in media, I could give it a really good crack. And then you give it the good crack, and then they're like, oh yeah, he kind of deserves to be here. So don't be afraid to, if you have to, and if the initial thing has to be you being annoying as fuck, to be honest with you, because 6 months later they'll be like, I'm glad you're an annoying prick, because we're happy to have you.
Look where we're at now.
Do you know what I mean? So that's my thing. I was always too cool. I'm Mr. Authentic. I just, people can come to me if they want. And that's really now what I've said. Give it a break, mate. Like, you got to play ball. You're only as good as what you can kind of get yourself into. So that's 100%. Don't be too cool like I was.
What an answer, man. Especially for me and Lee, even looking back at some of the stuff. We wrote a book a few months ago, and that's kind of we wrote a book. So that's what we done before we started the podcast. From the book, we got invited on to different podcasts. So that's kind of what gave us the idea to start around. But some of the stuff we were able to do off the back of that was like, we got to meet the president, got on Ireland AM a couple of times, like stuff like that. And people to say to us, oh, geez, that's deadly. Like, how do you do all those things? And like, all of it was from us going and initiating 100%. A conversation or sending an email. It's never like, sitting.
Yeah, that's good you said this. I'm definitely grand to say this. My missus works on Virgin, or was on Ireland AM. Now she's on 6 o'clock show, and she was saying, like, people come up to her and say, "Oh my God, how do people get on your show?" And it's like, they just send a message. They say, like, all these shows they're always looking to fill their. They're like, they're on every day. We need to film Monday to Sunday here. Like, we don't just, and they're not going scouring the internet who's bringing out what. So if you're bringing something out, it's always, and that's one of the maddest things. I don't know how I didn't learn that earlier. When I was trying to do my different podcasts, you learn, and this is a huge tip for that you lads probably already know. But if you're trying to get someone on a podcast, look at who's releasing the book, who has a movie coming out, because they're going to be doing a press tour, and if it's not a huge thing, they'll still want to promote it. So you say, I see you have a book out there, and they will 100% rather want to come on the podcast more so if they've got, especially if they're this busy person. They'll come on if they've got something to promote, and it's not an hour of going, so tell us about your book. Or it's just at the end, or you drop it in, or you might give lessons. Like, I'm sure what yous were doing in your interviews. So if you've got, like, first of all, do something, maybe if you've got a live show coming out, a book, I wouldn't say merch, but something that people can get value out of, and then just write into Virgin, RTE, every radio station. And like, go to the radio station and go to the reception and say, and they might say, fuck off, will you? And then, grand, go to the next one, and like, they'll get you on. It's not that complicated. It's mad how long it took me to learn that sort of thing. So just fucking knock on doors.
Definitely. I don't know if it's the biggest, but like the biggest earliest thing that happened to us, if you want to put it like that, was going on the RTE with the two Johnnies. We went on their radio show for 6 or 7 minutes, and it was like, as soon as we came off that, we had like 100 extra followers, which was huge for us at the time.
Brilliant.
And then we were talking to the producer afterwards who had us on, and she was like, I was so glad you emailed, because I had this spot on the Wednesday that was free and I didn't know who else was going to take it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, they're just sitting around, like, these producers, they're just doing a job at the end of the day. They just want to do their job and go home to their kids. Like, so they get an email from, these lads look acceptable. They don't look like absolute. There you go. What's the book? Grand. It's just a little slot to them. It's the biggest thing you've ever done in your life to you. Oh my God, I'm going on RTE with two Johnnies. Holy shit. They couldn't give a fuck. You're just the next one.
That's it. Of course.
Two Johnnies are like, who is this? Grand. They have another 500 you lads coming the rest of the week. And you've benefited so much from that. So don't be like that. 100%. That's exactly what my problem was. Just being like, if RTE want me to go on the radio, they can reach out. And I look back only to 6 months ago. What were you thinking, mate? Who did you think you were? That, like, think you're like Justin Bieber? That, like, people are just gonna ask you. Like, people will just, once you become anyway irrelevant. People forget about you and they don't care less because the next person's going to come along. So it's all down to you. You have so much more control than you think. But again, I'm not trying to be preachy, but that's what I would say to my previous self.
What an answer, man. For you, Daragh, what do you feel is your biggest strength and your biggest weakness?
Are we talking like career
in the gym? No, I'm only messing.
Yeah, a weakness.
Or so like personality or character traits or stuff you think can.
Strength, I think, like I'm not afraid to kind of, and especially now, like I'm 30 years old now, I have a bit of experience. I'm not afraid to go into a new environment and give an opinion. And I think I'm pretty good at being, like my missus kind of sometimes says you're a bit too honest, but she also loves that I'm so honest as well. So I could go in, and it's only if I'm asked.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like if you lads were like, right, come in and give us feedback on sitting in a podcast and give us feedback. I think I could have a good way of not hurting your feelings, but be like, look, this was a bit shit.
Yeah, how you
This was
frame it,
very
yeah.
good, blah, blah, blah. So I actually think I can, if I needed to like run a team or something, I'd be naturally decent at that. I also think, and it's not something I've done a whole lot kind of professionally, but like I do think the whole presenting thing kind of suits me. Like I feel most people, you put a camera in their face and a microphone, they like shit themselves, which is a normal human reaction. Whereas and my missus is the exact same. I would feel that's my calm place, which is kind of,
Right,
so you
yeah,
got,
yeah.
like, I'd say like the red dot syndrome, you know, you see the red dot go on and you know you're
oh,
live
shit.
and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my fucking God. Whereas I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Do you know what I mean? I love that. So I think that's where I'm naturally best.
Right.
Then weakness, up until now, yeah, it would have been like sounding like a broken record, but just not getting after stuff enough and just thinking, I am a hard worker, but also I've got my pride. Just pride, probably.
Yes, yeah.
Just too proud to do certain things. I'm trying to think of another weakness. Not that I'm sure there's plenty.
Should have asked our missus, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, maybe a bit of on it, bit too blunt with certain things.
Yeah.
And maybe like talking over people, which I've tried to work on. But again, my missus would be like, "You're talking over me," and I would also say a strength is I listen and
You'll take it on board,
I take stuff on board, because even like I play golf and I'm absolutely shy, but my mate who's good, if he tells me one little thing, I'll do it and then I'll hit it well. So I'll be I think I'm coachable. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, even when you're doing interviews, and you lads thankfully don't have that at all, but I've watched some of my videos back and I'm kind of talking over the guests and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, but it's just learning, you know.
What an answer, man. Especially the one about pride and being willing to like.
Yeah, that's huge.
Let go of that.
That's probably the biggest lesson I might ever learn, to be honest.
Love it, man.
Is it like a constant thing where you're like something great happens, like, all right, Daragh, calm down here?
What do you mean, like?
In terms of like at the start when you started blowing up with the Guinness Guru, stuff like that, were you like conscious of the fact that maybe there was a bit of ego coming in with the success that was coming with it?
Yeah. Well, I suppose when I was saying about the pride thing, it was more being too proud to kind of like that. Like, I'm not going to go
take certain brands and chase things up. Yeah.
You'd have to be a right gimp to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're in your early 20s and you're just too cool and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think I always had, like, say, my group of mates, very normal lads. They'd
keep you humble.
They'd bring me back down to earth if I needed. They'd take the piss out of the Guinness Guru thing, but not in a vicious way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just in a lad's way. And I grew up, you know, playing golf, playing rugby. That sort of banter is fine with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to take any of that to heart. But again, they're there supporting when like they'll come to something, they'll hold the camera for you.
Yeah.
So that's all I need from my mates. So I don't need to go, you're so great, because I wouldn't want that. It would make you turn into an egomaniac. But I would definitely say, like, if things blew up in a different way, I always say I'm glad nothing went well for me. I'm glad I wasn't doing this 10 years ago, because you see these lads who are 18, 19, 20 and they get a big following on TikTok, and I guarantee if that happened to me when I was 19, 20, I'd have just turned into an arsehole. I'd have been I'd have had such an ego, I'd have been so cocky.
Right.
Totally, like, I happily admit that. But 10 years later, I have the wherewithal to know that, all right, calm down. Also, yeah, you've got a couple of 100,000 followers, but you haven't made a penny from it. So who do you think you are, kind of thing. So again, that kind of Irish thing of humbling yourself. But I also think there's a lot of these days. There's a lot of kind of Irish small town bashing, which is all right, because we all, anyone who tries to do anything that's like creative or a podcast or YouTube is like, who the fuck you walking to? Oh, yeah, it's fucking Joe Rogan,
man,
yeah. Oh, Joe Rogan, yeah. So that kind of thing. But I like that sort of. I think that's a laugh to me.
Yeah.
And someone taking a piss, it's again, is it vicious or is it just a laugh? So, but I think I lost my train of thought there. But yeah,
that was a good answer. The small town Irish humor keeps you humble.
But I think it's good to have a little bit of that in the back of your mind. Like, don't get ahead of yourself. You know, you haven't really. And again, I haven't. I think I've done all right, but it's not anywhere near where I think I'm capable of getting.
Yeah. A good answer. And if it all ended tomorrow, social media, I don't know, Instagram and YouTube just collapsed. Yeah. Would you go back painting houses, or what would you be up to then? You'd be in the early house every morning.
So like TV and stuff is still there.
You can pursue your own things, but the profile that you've built up is gone.
So people just like press delete on the Guinness Guru and all.
Yeah, so like my memory, no one knows who I am. Yeah, I'd probably get back on the brush, but then eventually I'd try get into telly or radio or something like that. Yeah, the brush will always be there.
That's it, yeah. Do you ever miss it? Some days you wake up and I'd love to go up a ladder today and start painting stuff.
I can't lie, I don't ever miss it now.
No, I can imagine.
And sure, like the height to me, every time.
Oh, you don't even need a ladder, yeah?
Ladders there, every fucking gaff you go into. Oh, you won't need a ladder.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But I know, look, painting is great, but it served me well. And it was a perfect job for when you're trying to do something on the side. Yeah, you don't have to take it home with you. Do you know what I mean? You work your whatever 8 to 5, and then you can just be, if you're just painting a wall, you can kind of just be thinking and planning of other things as well while getting your work done.
Yes.
So it was actually the perfect job to be doing. But it was I never wanted. I was never like, I'm going to run my own painting business. It was always something to do. I just always loved making videos. That was always my thing. So something in that space.
Nice. Final question that I have for you, Daragh, is the last video we watched, by the time this goes out, there'll be a few more on top of it, we'll see, was what went wrong for you in 2023. What are you working on? What has to happen over the next 12 months, I suppose, for us to be watching a video at the end of this year saying, like, what went right for me in 2024?
I'd never post a video. I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's all that other stuff, but I'll be honest, like, already in the first, I think we're recording this on like the 20th of January. First 20 days of January, I feel like I've done more than I did in the last 6 months. So, and that's just because I've been fairly relentless with like emailing just anyone, any radio station, knocking on doors, trying to get in anywhere, and having the confidence that once anyone gives me any sort of an opportunity, I will impress them. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that's what I envision for, say, the end of December 2024, just saying, look, I just was relentless. I went after everything. I annoyed people, but then it's okay to annoy someone if you're going to benefit them after, this lad will not leave me alone. Because, you could have say this time last year, if I messaged someone and said, hey, I'd love to come in and shadow for a day, and they message back and go, yeah, sounds good, I'll be in touch. I'd just sit there and wait for them to get back to me. Yes. And if they didn't, I'd go, fuck them. Do you know what I mean? Oh, they don't want me, then I'll go to the next. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can do my own thing. Whereas now, if they don't reply by the next day, I'm like, I just ring them. Just get on it. Hell yeah. And they're like, you think, oh, they're sitting there going, we don't need it. He's just going, oh, jeez, I forgot. Yeah, come in tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? It's so simple. So that's what I hope to be saying if we do the pod this time next year. I say, I just wrecked people's heads. I went after, I gave my all. I did way more. That was like, if I was shadowing, I did this extra, that extra, just trying to impress and having the confidence that I know I can do it. So that's it. Just chasing, attack, and just go after it.
Nice. On the front foot.
Front foot, yeah, that's a good one. I like that. On the front foot.
No more questions, no?
Proactive, not reactive.
Proactive, I like it. Lessons you would have learned as a young rugby man, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Coming to fruition now.
No, that's the last thing I say. You don't, like I was saying with doing the buckle up YouTube videos in 2018, 2019, you don't know, even if something is not, you're like, God, no one's watching this. Like, these are getting no views. I'm getting nothing out of this. It could be 10 years time where you actually you benefit from the fruits of that labour. So it's...
Yeah. What's the quote you love, Adam?
Which one?
Something about seeds or planting trees or something like that.
There's a couple that came to mind. I think the one you're talking about is the one like societies grow when old men plant trees who shade they never see.
That's less relevant.
But the other one is like that came to mind when you were saying that. I can't remember it word for word, but something like you don't choose when you get to reap what you've sowed, but you choose when you sowed what you will reap or something like that. So it's like you don't choose when the results are going to come, but you choose when you put the work in day out, start planting those seeds.
The more
exactly.
The results aren't guaranteed. That's the problem. But the more you do, the better chance.
And the only thing that is guaranteed, if you don't do the work, you definitely won't get the results. So
100%. Yeah,
that's it. What a place!
You'd be a lot more miserable that way.
Well, the pub guru, the Guinness guru, the former karaoke man. Actually, last question. Irish artists aside, what is your karaoke song?
I'd have a good few. I do like an Al song, but the first one would always be "Follow Me, Uncle Cracker." Follow me and everything is alright.
Oh, I knew what they were saying.
The one that took you in it. Yeah.
Didn't know that was the name. I'd be Crazy World, Aslan.
Yeah, love that one as well. Hard to hit the notes on that though.
Yeah, I don't have the
You'll need a bit of work.
I can't get those high notes.
You can have a favourite song, but then you have to actually try and sing it and think, can I hit the notes on that?
Oh, if it was like a song that people would listen to and be like, that was pleasant, like to listen to, I think I would just not do it.
What's yours?
I'd probably have to go like Mr. Brightside. Some that I know people will just jump in with. So you're like,
yeah. You won't even be. You can miss half. The
yeah,
song
exactly.
I like it. Well, Daragh, Curran, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Adam and Lee, thank you very much. And I think, you lads will keep fucking slapping away at it. And like we used to say with the painting, keep slapping. Not physically. Just keep banging out the episodes. And I think he's genuinely, I'm not saying this from someone who's, it's not like I've achieved stuff, but it's just, I definitely think there's potential, and just keep banging out the episodes and you'll go far.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Cheers.
You. All good, Davey.